Please rise for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the village board meeting of August 9th. Roll call, please.
Caprows.
Here.
Possession.
Here.
Giannotti.
Here.
Terry. Stacy.
Here.
Kraus.
Here.
You have the minutes from the meeting of last month in your packet. Are there any changes? Is there a motion to approve?
Maybe even Elk Grove Village, Bensonville.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Caprows.
Yes.
Possession.
Yes.
Giannotti.
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Kraus.
Abstain.
Does anyone in the audience wish to address the board? All right, village clerk's report.
Total tax income received in the month of July is $237,416.54. That's all I have.
Okay. Village commissions, beautification commission, Matt Connor.
Nothing to report.
Okay. 4th of July commission, Trustee Kraus.
I saw the signs are up, and then it's still, it'll be Friday, September 3rd through Monday, September 6th. The fireworks will be September 5th at 8:30 p.m. And then otherwise, I assume the agenda and everything, the schedule's posted online.
Yes,
So
we're waiting for the brochures to come out.
I just posted the full schedule on our website today.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Youth commission, Trustee Session.
All right, just two updates. First, Beecher Youth Commission provided 2 bouncy houses for children at the recent National Night Out, along with volunteers to staff them. I think a lot of fun was had by the kids hopping about in there. And then our next BYC meeting is right now tentatively planned for August 25th here at the Village Hall. Primary topics I think they're going to be talking about will be new recruits, officers, and then further planning on the involvement of the Kid and Pet Parade for the Fall Fest. That is all.
Alrighty. Historic Preservation Commission, Trustee Kapoor.
Meeting set up for Wednesday the 18th, 6 p.m. at the depot. That's all I got.
Alright. We're going to move my report to the end. We're going to go straight to committee reports, and actually I was going to move up planning and zoning, but to be honest, there's only 2 quick ones ahead of you, so let's do Finance and Administration Committee, Trustee Kapoor.
Consider a motion approving the treasurer's report. Donna?
The July month-end balance for the village accounts, $2,746,658.01. The July month-end for the commission accounts, $197,843.37. The total of all combined, $2,944,501.38. The month-end balance in general, $926,507.34. Just one note, you'll see the month-end balance in water main replacement was down to $86.34. We've had a lot of payouts for engineering expenses. What we ended up doing, we're waiting on reimbursement for all of that. And what we did was we made the mid-year transfer a few months early to cover that. And that was $85,000. I think that was in your packet. So that's why you see a balance so small there.
To keep it easy on the auditors, we typically do 2 transfers a year.
Yes.
We just did this one a lot sooner than normal because of this
Correct. Yes.
shortfall.
The commission non-AP payments for the month of July totaled $210,574.17. Nothing out of the ordinary in there. There are no questions. That would end my report.
All right, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approving the treasurer's report.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Kraus.
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Genati,
Yes.
Possession,
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes. Variance reports are enclosed for your review. And last item, consider a motion approving the bills and payroll for the previous month. Outside of what was mailed to everybody on Friday, since then that came in, was a bill for Cintas for $1,389.66. ComEd bill, $9,190.66. Constellation Energy, $62.50. Hessel Jesperson, $898.37. Martin Whalen, $365.84. Power Equipment Leasing, $670. Printing Systems Inc., $179.43. Reaper Pest Management, $80. The Vedette, $165, and the Verizon bill, $1,076.46. So I will go ahead and make a motion approving the bills in the amount of $169,291.41.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, discussion?
I just have a question. The credit card bills, there's a bunch from this month that weren't initialed. Is that just a monthly oversight, or, because when I went last month, like every single one was initialed, like the individual credit card bills, usually the department head sign off on them for initial. I just noticed there were a lot that wasn't.
I don't remember. I
Yeah.
can't.
I know I missed mine when I was signing bills, but we did it over the phone.
Transition with the chief.
Yeah.
We didn't have those either, so you might have seen my handwriting on them.
Yeah.
But they were all legitimate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roll call?
Caprows,
Yes.
Possession,
Yes.
Genati,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
That concludes my report.
Public Buildings and Properties, Parks and Recreation Committee, Trustee Session.
So the splash pad pre-con meeting results, some of the progress dates are changing due to the inability to obtain some of the materials for the job, and the need for the coating to be pure on the concrete, and then I believe the superintendent has a update.
Yeah, so George's Landscaping is looking to start the week after the fest. Kind of try to keep it a little neater, cleaner down there and whatnot during the fest. They have some projects that they need to finish up before they can start here. So they'll be starting roughly September 7th. Once they do that, they need, I believe what they said was about like 2 weeks to get the project done. But then once the concrete's poured, which is going to be one of the last steps, it takes 28 days for that to cure. Obviously pushes us into October. The splash pad, it appears now that it won't actually be open until around May 15th of next year. So the landscaping and all that stuff will be done yet this fall, and then it'll give time for that to, grow in and whatnot, and then next year it should be good to go.
So we would schedule a ribbon cutting in something in probably early May of 2020.
Thank you. That concludes the report.
Okay, Planning, Building and Zoning Committee, Trustee Stacy.
Hi, yes, Mayor. The building department's monthly report is enclosed for review. So far, they have issued 6 building permits for new homes in 2021. We are in the process of issuing 4 more for August. Not quite 24 per year, the target of the desired, but they're getting there. Also, consider a resolution approving an exploratory proposal for the Illini Crossroad Business Park of Beecher. 110 acres located on the south side of Church Road between the UP Railroad tracks and Dixie Highway. The village attorney has drafted the enclosed resolution along with the exhibits pertaining to the deliberation of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the result of the public hearing of July 28th. Most of the board members attended the public meeting, the public hearing, and heard firsthand the issues expressed by the residents living in the area. There are several concerns that have to be addressed prior to the approval of the preliminary plan, which included traffic study for Church Road drainage and proof that the project will not drain onto adjoining property, and research currently being conducted by TESCA on whether the change will affect adjoining property by looking at comparisons in other communities. The village board could also table this resolution if it requires more information from the petitioners prior to the consideration of this resolution. Please see the enclosed material at the end.
The petitioner's here tonight. Warren Opperman is going to be the design engineer on the project. And I've asked him not to do a new presentation again because everybody except Trustee Kraus, I believe, was at that hearing. And Trustee Kraus was on vacation, so he would have been there if he was in town. And heard the residents, heard the presentation. So the reason they're here tonight is to answer any questions or provide any new information that might be available since the hearing. Is there anything new to report since the hearing, Warren, or not at this time?
Nothing new at this point in time, just, if there's any other questions that we can answer, really.
Okay, the exploratory approval resolution that we're considering tonight allows us to go to the next step, which is the preliminary plan. And in that preliminary plan process, we will answer those residents' questions, like the drainage on adjoining property. Obviously, we're not putting any water on adjoining property, but we have to prove that. There was some concern expressed about traffic on Church Road. Is there enough queuing on Church Road to handle truck turning movements? Is the road adequate to handle the additional trucks on the road? Those types of things would be answered during the preliminary phase. I think it was a question related to water mains at the hearing. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. I could have answered it then. But the distribution system, when you add that 10-inch water main loop system, it's actually going to increase the quality and flow of the water as a result of the installation of that project. A good question that was asked at the hearing, and I watched the hearing on Facebook, is my property value going to be affected by the project? And I think that's a valid question. And Tesco right now is doing research, some other studies that have been done in other communities as a result of the business park, to see what the impacts of those are. And when this thing comes up at the PCC again for preliminary, Tesco will make its report at that time. Other than that, I think everybody in this room was basically there at the hearing. It's open for the board for discussion at this point.
Are there any, besides the issues listed here, are there any other major issues that were brought up at that meeting that either are already addressed or still need to be addressed?
To be honest, there seemed to be some confusion about the types of businesses that could be in there, and I don't know if we really fully went over that at that hearing, because I think people had an idea in their head of you know.
Smokestacks and junk
Yeah,
food
but
stores.
huge smokestacks and things behind them, and I think that's a fear. They didn't specifically express that, but that seemed to be the biggest issue as far as property values and that sort of thing, and I don't think we really went over.
And more time probably should have been spent reviewing the covenants that were drafted at the hearing, so that the public could say, okay, here it says no open storage, there it is. Maybe on the lots along Willow Lane, we could say those lots have to be front-loaded for trucks only. You can only enter loading docks from the street side, not the back side. Things like that, which really don't affect how the lot would be developed, would put a lot of those adjoining residents' fears at ease. And I think these covenants that are in your packet, I believe, if you want to read them, can be refined, can be further tuned if you so desire, but I think they're pretty solid. You know, we might have to address some of the issues. But believe it or not, I thought more concerns were being expressed by the residents along Catalpa Street than Willow Lake at the hearing. You know, which, is that true, George? And
Absolutely.
Dave were both there.
Yep.
You have three PZC members are sitting there, actually.
I think one thing you really need to do is you need to distinguish light industrial from heavy industrial. There's a big misconception out there amongst the people. They all think that big factories are going in there, and that's not the case. And I don't know if that has any difference on the truck traffic or the size of the trucks either, with light versus heavy. So, I mean, I think people need to be aware this is light industrial is a very thing they really need to know, and somehow that has to be gotten across to them.
Mm-hmm. And the lighting, you know, you have to make sure the lighting is not obtrusive to adjoining property, things like that.
And really, Willow's the only street that would have, I don't want to say direct, but Willow's the only street that won't have a retention pond or something in
Between,
between, right?
that's correct.
And they, I mean, I drove over there, some of those houses have a berm that, plus with trees and stuff, I mean, they're higher than houses. So that's, and everything's going on top of that anyways, right? Everything's in addition to it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that the residents,
Miller would be like Willow.
no,
Far south end.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm not saying the residents on Willow don't have concerns, I'm just saying they weren't expressed as significantly as the ones at the top of the street were expressing.
One of the issues I noticed that they were talking about on Willow was that currently they get a lot of runoff from the farm field into their yards. And it was described that that would be alleviated a little bit with the development of the property going over to the retention ponds. That would be controlled on the backside of those burners.
I think a lot of that water is from field tiles.
Exactly, so.
Yeah, those field tiles have to be redirected to the retention basins, and I'm familiar with that issue over there in Willow Lane, and that's one of the big problems.
So, kind of resolves one of those issues over there.
Yeah.
I think some of the other issues that I heard, that weren't addressed and aren't addressed, in this is, delivery times. As you stated, you know, about rear loading along Willow, maybe there's something we could look at as far as, you know, we do have noise ordinances in place. I mean, obviously, this backs up to residential. I mean, maybe it's as simple as putting it in here in the covenants of delivery times, you know, as to what time trailers are able to be, you know, brought in and unloaded with that noise, with the backup sensors and stuff like that. And just the hours of the operation of the park in general. And the other thing that I heard, that's not addressed in here is, but I know it is addressed within our ordinances, is heights of these buildings, is how high are these buildings gonna be. You know, when I back up to my property, yes, you're talking about a, you know, a berm with 6-foot plantings on top or whatever, but, you know, I'm still gonna see a building on top of that. I do know that we have height limits in place, for example, in Dutch American, where I know you guys had to come in for special use for the sugar container. You know, maybe there's even some, you know, for those few lots where maybe we can possibly address height limits for possibly maybe even a little lower than what's typically allowed in your existing business park, for those lots that are directly backing up to, you know, say Miller Street and Willow, where they're primarily affected by it, you know, versus, I'm not saying every lot, but, you know, if there's some things we can address on that end of it.
Yeah, typically those types of rise zoning restrictions, you have height limits based on setbacks. For every 3 foot of setback, you get a foot of height. You could do it that way as well. So the taller the building, the further the setback it have to be. There's different things you could do with that.
I'm not saying, you know, anything would need to be pinpointed down today, but I'm just saying these are some of the things that I heard that aren't addressed in the covenants. You know, and to me, the biggest one is that, you know, the hours of operation, as to times that trucks
can
would
run,
be allowed to do
unload.
that. You know, and if a truck does come outside of, you know, permitted operating hours, what happens? Does that truck run and sit there idle in people's backyards, or, you know, could there be a staging area maybe somewhere closer to church to keep it away from the residents, or somewhere else in the park where if you have a truck that comes in late or something outside of hours of operation, is it, you know, if it's an over-the-road truck or something, you know, you can't logistically always plan those things exactly right, where a truck may come in the middle of the night, he gets there and he's gotta wait until, you know, 7 AM for, you know, the doors to open. Is that truck gonna be allowed to idle right there at the lot of the business that it's delivering to, or can we create some sort of staging area closer to church, away where the residents wouldn't hear that? So I do think there's some other things that we can definitely work on with this, but those are a few of the, like I said, a few of the things I heard that I don't feel are addressed in here that I think can easily be addressed, so.
So Bob, with this resolution, we're just doing an exploratory, right? So the stuff we're talking about, and we're going on the covenants, when does that get addressed, or when does that get added or resolved?
More so in the preliminary phase.
Okay.
Yeah. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Warren, the preliminary would be on the entire project, but the final, which is another review, will only be for a portion of that project, right?
Correct.
Can you show on the map, can you show the board where the first phase of the project would be, first final phase?
First phase would really be right up here in this northwest quadrant, church and the railroad. Here's a pipeline that cuts through the property, so somewhere up in this area right here.
And then phase two would be an extension of that road?
Phase two would be an extension, just depending on how lot sales go and how interest goes, you know, whether phase two would come down into here or whether it would go all the way down. But the logical progression would be, you know, starting at the north and working our way south. And then depending on what happens, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if we're working on the west phase, and the village or somebody would say, look, we have a nice senior development that is interested in that parcel, would you guys consider selling it for that purpose at that point, before you put any money into the
Which part?
industrial, the east half? If you're working on the west half and all of a sudden we get a buyer for the east half and he wants to put a senior housing development in there, would you guys consider selling it at that point?
Talk
about it,
yeah.
Sure.
So there's potential that we could repurpose that land anyway down the road. And we've tried marketing that for 10 years for senior housing. In fact, I even had a letter from you stating that you would be willing to sell it for senior housing, and we tried for, how many years? 10 years? Could not find a buyer for it.
Right.
You know, so we've tried other uses. But we still leave that opportunity open.
Anybody else?
Heights and, can I say something, heights and your zoning ordinance for light industrial is 40 feet.
Right.
A lot of buildings aren't that height. The buildings that I build, they're close to it because we need all the height we can get. You know, taller is more reasonable for square footage cost than warehousing. It's one thing I hate to see. I mean, if they were shorter, well, would we go to 36? You know,
Yeah, I don't know if we have an
32?
answer to that, do we?
No, I mean, what do you think the height of Waltz is, that plaza?
Oh, that's probably close to,
24?
I'm guessing 30.
30?
Yeah.
30 feet?
I
My
don't think it's 30
My
feet.
building's 30,
No.
my building's 30 feet.
I don't think you're
on the
anywhere
north
near
side.
that. But
It's a lot taller than walls.
yeah, and, I mean, I'm not talking putting limits on every lot like that, but, I mean, if you're talking a lot, say here, I mean, if you're talking about doing a berm, a 4-foot berm with 6-foot planting on it, even if you put something 40 feet tall behind it, they're still gonna see it. I mean, really, what are you doing with the berm in that place anyway, then? Right? I mean, what does the berm do? You block the bottom
I guess.
10 feet of the building that they can't see?
Useless.
So, I mean, I think there's gotta be some sort of compromise. What that number is, Art, I don't know right now, but I do think that, I mean, out of the 50-something lots, you're talking about 1, 2, 4, maybe, then maybe 5, 6 down there at Miller that would be affected by this.
He's talking the ones that are closer down on the southern end.
I mean, if you're talking about a height on something, you know, anything in phase 1, right, that's not gonna be visible by somebody on Willow right there. But if you're talking about possibly maybe somewhere in the lots, cause lot 10 is even in there, but maybe lots 11 through 16, and then maybe those bottom 4, I mean,
You could make an attempt to, if you get a buyer, you know what he wants, to try to place them there.
or you could just put limits on those lots in the covenants with separate height restrictions.
How high is that water tank? Yeah, you know, is that 35 feet?
Yeah, I was gonna say 33, I believe.
33 feet, the tank.
Mhm.
It gives you a good point of reference.
Yeah.
Even though it's further back, it's 33 feet taller.
I guess my point is whether it's 32 feet or 40, they're still gonna see the building. So what do you gain? You're losing a potential sale of a real good client possibly. But if somebody wants a 40-foot high or 38-foot high building, that's gonna be a nice project for the village. You know, they put up a 25 or 30,000 foot warehouse that high. You wanna turn that away?
Well,
Is there a way to direct them to a different lot though? I mean, because you said that's going in 3 phases, correct?
Yeah.
So I mean, if we're talking Miller's, what phase, I can't see, Miller's what, phase 2 maybe? You're saying depending on construction, and Willow be phase 3?
Those homes by Miller, they'll be 300 feet away from the,
Yeah, we're not talking about Miller, we're only talking about the lots.
I brought up
below.
Miller too because those are
Oh,
directly back up to
that's why I
somebody's
started.
residential
thinking.
property. And I think Art, in answer to your question is yes, I mean, I think at the same time, if it gives the residents that are directly impacted by this some ease, then yes, I do think that's something we need to look into. When you're talking about 50-something lots and it possibly affecting, you know, a half dozen of those lots to put some ease into the residents' mind that are directly affected by this, yes, I do think that's something that needs to be into consideration.
Were there a lot of people that said, hey,
I heard people, yeah, talk, so I heard, it was there at the meeting, people brought it up, I mean, you guys were there, I don't know if you guys didn't hear it, but then we got 3 other PCC members that are, I see 2 of them nodding their head, yes, that there was people with concerns about the view outside their houses and how tall the buildings would be.
okay. Okay.
And as far as trucks go, I mean, it's an industrial park and there's companies that we run 2 shifts. I'm not saying that that's gonna be long there, but tell a customer you can't bring your trucks in after 5 o'clock or.
No,
I don't think
our
we're
noise
looking-
ordinance is 7 in the morning to 9 at night, I think.
Yes, on weekdays, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's,
What's the is there an ordinance for that?
For noise.
for noise, yeah.
7 AM to 9 PM. I can't go out and start a chainsaw at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, technically that's a violation of the law.
So if a noise ordinance for, say, any of ours next door neighbors, right, has limits as to when they can go out there and make noise, I would think that, you know, a business that's a neighbor should be held to those same restrictions, whether it's, you know, look, this is about playing nice with the neighbors. And
Yeah.
I know when you guys came in and have talked about it and anything we've ever done together, I know you guys have always been concerned and wanted to be good neighbors. You're not looking for anything, this is not the point or phase that we discuss exact specifications and stuff like that. But I do wanna know that these are the type of things that aren't in the covenants that I think would give a lot of the residents that will be directly affected by this some ease as to what is coming in to be their new neighbors.
Yeah, we can talk about some of that, and I don't know, is there decibels that you guys have published so we could know? I mean, what is the decibel of an idling semi?
We have a performance-based industrial zoning district, and that's all explicit in there.
It's all spelled out, but,
But I'm not an expert in performance-based zoning, it requires
Yeah.
meters and things like that, and that's what they usually do, when they buy a lot, and they present the building department with all that information.
okay,
You know, the storage of chemicals, that's always a big deal, how you properly store them inside a building. The fire district gets involved, of course, you know, on how process control works in the building, all that stuff. Until you have an end user, it's really hard to make these decisions. So it's basically one lot at a time. But I think what Trustee Caperos is asking for is some consideration of further restrictions on those lots that are joining residential, the ones right up to them.
yeah, those ones right here particularly, on Willow.
Yes, well, and on Miller, the ones at the bottom down there. But that won't come until the end of phase 2 or phase 3, really. Those concerns, we'll
It'll
deal
be
with
down
those
the
at
road.
final.
Right.
Any other questions?
So Bob, with the resolution today, say that's approved, what are the next steps that come about after that?
They go to preliminary plan approval, and that's where they have to satisfy the village engineer and our village planner. We get into more detail. Also, at some point, Warren, you're gonna have to get the state involved with the historic preservation and the wetlands, Army Corps and all that good stuff. Are you gonna do that during preliminary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get a lot more engineering done. Right now, questions were asked about, the creek's gonna overflow. Well, right now, at exploratory phase, we don't have enough scientific or engineering data to refute that claim. At the preliminary phase, that information will be there to actually show that creek levels will be reduced as a result of the project. Because you gotta withhold a 0.15 CFS on your release rate off the property. But we can't prove that now. In preliminary, they'll have to prove that.
So it would be accurate to say that in preliminary, more information comes to light, but no, construction is occurring?
Correct.
Okay.
And the reason why the PUD is set up this way is so the petitioner doesn't have to spend oodles of money to go through all this engineering if you guys don't like the concept to begin with.
So basically, tonight, we're considering the concept.
Correct. It's a resolution, not an ordinance.
Anything else? Does someone wish to proceed with the resolution? You wish to table it? What would you guys like to do?
Make a motion, is all included?
You can make that motion. Is that your motion? Resolution number 2021-11. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Giannotti,
Yes.
Possession,
Yes.
Capros.
Yes.
All right, we move to preliminary, guys. I gotta make bats for moving here. Good luck.
Well, I think it should be emphasized that this is preliminary, that there's a lot of steps. I mean, Bob, you talked about the next step of preliminary, where it goes to planning and zoning, comes back to us. It'll end up back at planning and zoning for a final PUD. There's numerous steps that this is not, one step away from approval for the residents that know. There's a lot of things that our planning and zoning board does on behalf of the village to work on some of this stuff with the developers. And there's things that the village has an opportunity to add on and expand on what the planning and zoning does. Then it goes back to planning and zoning for a final. So there's many steps of and opportunities for things to be addressed and concerns.
So what you're saying is when it comes out on Facebook tomorrow, that it's gonna start shovel ready tomorrow?
Yes,
That's completely
that's
false.
not
true.
That's not what is happening here tonight.
There's corn to be harvested
Yeah,
out there.
we'll let the village Facebook, put a squash on that.
And that's a question for the benefit of the public. Do you guys have a timeline? I mean, when do you wanna go back to PZC with the preliminary? They meet the fourth Thursday of each month, so I don't know what your schedule would be to hit their meeting schedule. Would it be the fourth Thursday in September for preliminary? The reason I ask is I already had some PZC members asking, I'm gonna be out of town this 1 week, and I wanna make sure I'm at the meeting,
I'm not certain, maybe Warren can answer, but I think some of that, the Army Corps and all that kind of stuff can take a while.
Yeah, so it might be October before we go to preliminary.
We've got flood study work to work on, we've got traffic study work to work on. There's
A lot of stuff.
study work besides the engineering work, to get all that
So the fourth Thursday in October at the earliest, you're thinking?
at the earliest.
Okay.
We can talk with our.
It'll be a lot easier getting the boys together in the winter than it is in the summer, so.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a lot of work to be done.
Okay. Public Safety Committee, Trustee Kraus.
Thank you. The Police Department and EMA monthly report is enclosed for review. I'll Police Department provided at the next meeting. Results of the National Night Out initiated by Trustee Terry and held last Tuesday. I'd like to thank Trustee Terry for putting that together in such short notice. I'd also like to officially announce the race, the Dillon Hole race between the mayor, the village clerk, and the village treasurer. The village treasurer won. So it was close. It wasn't a landslide, it was close, but, thank you to everybody, all the volunteers, everyone who put time and money into this. I think it was a great event. I saw a lot of smiling and happy faces. It was a beautiful night out, and I'm glad we're able to do it. So thank you everyone who participated. Results of the Laramie Dispatch Center quarterly meeting of the Board of Directors. Vote was taken on a budget that will increase the village Beecher portion of the fee for 2022 by only 0.25% after a new budget that was proposed and voted upon. All 32 city members of the board voted in favor of this budget, first unanimous approval since the consolidation began. It appears that things are starting to straighten out for now. Please see the enclosed material. I've been making an ad. Wait for that also.
I was shocked, to be honest with you, because the first draft of the budget that came out,
It was closer to 10%, wasn't it?
yes, and there was a lot of angst expressed by the 32 board members, and lo and behold, they had a new budget for the Board of Directors meeting. And I really don't want to quarter of a point, well, I can't argue about that, so.
I'll take that over 10%.
Yeah. So we're good for another year, see what happens next year. They still have problems staffing the center, and that's one of the reasons they have so much money, is because they fund all these positions, but they can't fill them. And our argument is, why are we paying for positions you can't fill?
We're continuing to plan for them and pay for them.
Yeah.
And then full and part-time, we had 6 full-time applications came in for the lateral. We had 2 part-time. Trustee Terry is out this week, so I will set up our interviews for the next week. I'll get a hold of the police commission, we'll set up times to do them. And I am hoping to have a name for the full-time for our next meeting for the board. And that's all I have, thank you.
Okay.
Just one note, our new interim chief will be sworn in at the next board meeting.
Oh, yes.
He'll be unofficially sworn in the day he gets here, but the formal one will be in front of the full board like it should be at the next board meeting.
Public Works Committee, Trustee Giannotti.
The Water Department monthly report is enclosed for your review. And also our Route 1 resurfacing update.
The schedule keeps getting pushed back. I don't know if it's weather related or what, but they're not scheduled to start putting the first lift on this road until next week now, so. I don't know, just hang in there, guys. They were working on Saturday, that's all I can say. Someone was paying for it.
Yeah. And that concludes my report.
Economic Development and Community Relations Committee, Trustee Session.
Thank you. Probably the most exciting topic for discussion today, the Beecher wastewater treatment plant ribbon cutting and open house is a go for Saturday, August 28th at 375 Aaron's Drive.
I have cleared my schedule for that day. I will be there.
Good, me too. I hope I see everybody. We will do this rain or shine and move the event indoors if it rains, which, at the sewer plant could be an interesting proposition.
We can still run a belt press even in the rain.
Okay. We'll have a short program beginning at 9:15 a.m. with an explanation of the project, introductions and the formal ribbon cutting. Tours of the plant will then be held. We'll have some light refreshments and keep it simple. So that is the sewer plant. Should be done by noon. I was curious, by the way, I know we were inviting a slate of people. Bob, anybody RSVP yes from the list?
Not yet, 'cause I think we just mailed them out last Friday, so we haven't gotten.
We can still hope
Maybe
for
by the
big
next board
names.
meeting, I'll let you know who's planning on coming.
Cool.
Dignitaries, I don't know, sewer plants aren't the most exciting,
No.
photo ops.
What? We'll see.
It's not a road or a new city hall.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, moving on.
A work problem.
Next up, time to think about the fall newsletter. Anyone have ideas for articles they want to throw out there?
Obviously, the industrial park information. I mean,
Well,
if we have any dates for, like when that comes out, if we have any dates for PCC meetings or any of that stuff.
So, yes, and I would think, in that would be, probably more of an explanation as to the steps of the process to hopefully avoid any confusion as to when, if, anything does become, shovel-ready, the steps of that. I think it's important where you can do the, true and false as to.
Can we do like frequently asked questions? I mean, like if
Yeah.
there's, if we have answers to some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like that on paper.
I think that should be a big part of it. I think obviously, an introduction of our interim chief.
And I believe EMA, you're producing a page for us, too, aren't you, an article?
Excellent, good, good. And then possibly something that I'll bring up in new business.
Cool. All right, anything else? No? And that'll conclude my report.
Okay. Back to my report that we pushed back. And I'm not gonna bring this for a vote tonight, but consider a proposal from Dan McDivitt of P4 Security Solutions for recruitment and selection of finalists for chief of police position. I asked for this proposal, the name was given to me by one of the trustees, although we actually have used them in the past. It offers a wide range of service options for the board to consider. Mr. McDivitt would be willing to come to a future meeting to introduce himself and explain the options. And we could also choose a hybrid of any of these plans. The proposal is in your packet, and I dog-eared it, and now I can't find it. There was some controversy between all of us. We could not remember if we used them last time or not, and I dug through all my old emails from 2017 and found that we actually did use them last time. And I think we used option C. They did assessment center and submission of finalists to the village. We did all the rest of the
Are
package.
we sure? Because I just think I remember like Bob, the old mayor, and they brought in, I think, an outside chief or two to narrow down from, I think, 10 to 5 or 10 to 2.
Yeah, and I found something, and it actually had the information in the packet. Thank you for selecting us for blah, 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 to do assessment center. We probably have to go back and look at the bills to figure out what we did. Not that it really matters. But I know that our former mayor I believe he used a panel of chiefs to help him with this process. I would like to use this firm. No, we don't have to use them for option A to do this entire thing, because there's a lot of this we can do ourselves. But there are some things I think bring value to bringing an outside firm in to look this over. I like the idea of even interviewing the community leaders, elected officials, police department personnel, and having an outside service doing that, so that maybe people would be a little more willing to open up and see what they're looking for. Certainly, we advertised last time on our own, and I think we got 63 applications, something like that,
In the
65.
60s.
Yeah, we had a lot of applicants. I don't recall who went over what and who did what portion of this, but I would be interested in using them for, like I said, a hybrid plan to be determined, and we could discuss that later. Just curious as to what your thoughts are.
Are there any other options out there besides this company?
Yes, there's the IECP where we got Terry Lemon from, but I've been on that guy to give me a proposal, and he hasn't done so yet. And I also heard some comments that when you use associations for searches,
You
is
get their
an old
members.
fraternity.
You get their members.
Yeah, and I think,
I'll say it.
I wasn't gonna mention anyone by name, but okay. The third, a third-party consultant is probably better because they don't have skin in the game, where an association may. So I just think this way would be better than if we use the association.
I don't know if I'd say they don't have any skin in the game. I mean, I agree. I don't like the idea of going with an association strictly just because then it's just recycle. You get what they have. But the people who do this are all part of, I mean, I guarantee you every single person that's involved in this has that or had that in their past. So I think this opens it up more. I don't want people to think that they're not going to get still, it's, a group that they know or that they associate with or see at venues or things like that.
I did find an old proposal that we got from another consulting firm, which this company had a proposal in there 22, and that firm was double this price back in 17, or early 18. So I think this consultant probably would be the least expensive, other than maybe the association option. But
I
again,
guess
we have to follow through.
my only other question, if we're gonna use the exact same company and if we do the exact same option, what's to say we're gonna get different results?
Well, but all they did last time, if they indeed did it, was the assessment center at the end, basically, we did everything else. We determined qualifications, we decided what we were looking for, I mean, everything else was done in-house. I'm not sure what Greg,
There were
Did-
5, I remember 5 finals. Jeanette, whenever I can show you were on the panel as well, correct?
2 police chiefs, Greg, you, I.
Correct. And we interviewed 5 finalists, and I thought any one of those 5 probably would have qualified to be chief.
From what I remember of it is, I think when this all happened, I think the old mayor kinda did this pretty much all on his own and worked directly with this service on his own and created that committee like you brought up with the other chiefs, the administrator and the clerk. And I think he's the one who presented those. I think that was all his determination as to the final. I don't think there was anything else involved.
because when it went from 63 down to the last ones, I mean, there was a list that had gone out, but outside of that, I don't know. I think
We-
he took care of,
I mean, none of us really had any vision into it. We received, I mean, I remember it, and I
Still got
still
the
got the
packet
paperwork.
with their
Um,
picture and their,
We
where they
received,
live, all
we,
that stuff.
we received 5 resumes, copies of 5 resumes, and there was, the board interviewed 2 candidates.
Before that, I thought we got a whole packet of like 10 or 12 people. I have still the whole packet from that.
You may have as that committee, I don't know if the whole board, I just remember the 5 resumes.
I can't remember what I did just.
But
The
I think,
exact details of the
So-
process. I don't interview 5.
I think with this, right, this is a different situation, right? We're going into this, we have an interim chief, set in place, and at the end of the day, Mayor, I mean, this is your appointment, right? I think financially, as finance chair, I can tell you that we can afford any of these options that you want. I think it's kinda up to you as to what I think you just gotta tell us what you're looking for, what you feel comfortable with, and who you feel comfortable with, to be able to present us with options or candidates of your choice. I mean, this is your appointment. So, I think right now, I'd kinda look for, you know, what do you want? What do you feel you need to get you to that finish line of, you know, to come to the board and say, you know, here's my guy, here's my appointment.
I would actually like to talk to this guy again. We had a pretty short meeting and just, you know, pros and cons of doing all these different things. I would like to talk to McDivitt again.
And he's also willing to come here, too.
I'm pretty sure he did come here before.
Yeah, he did, and
He did
I
last time.
know who Dan McDevitt is, I know I saw him before.
And, yeah, no, he did come here, and I mean, I do remember him saying that, which is kind of what you said, is he'll do as much or as little as we want. I mean, and there's, I mean, we have option A, option B, option C, right? I mean, if there's something that you want where maybe you feel you don't need all of option B, but you'd like a little something extra than option C, I mean, seriously, I'd have no problem approving today, you know, an up to for the amount of option A and let you decide what you need.
Yeah,
You know, I
and
mean,
they're willing to, you know, they're willing
I
to
think-
build in anything anything we want, you
and
know.
I think your communication with the board is good. I think you keep us posted as to what you know, decide as you move forward with this, but, I mean,
Well, if, like recruitment efforts, if that's just merely posting the job ad on the blue line, we can do that, you know, I don't know what that all involves.
They have it listed here on the page before.
Yeah.
I mean, well, but even like, so just the assessment center, they do the assessment. And I've been in law enforcement 20, whatever, a long time. I don't know what that entails, or even like what the results would even mean if it comes out of there. So I mean, again, I'm not saying don't do it, but.
Well,
I
they've
mean,
got a
I-
description of all this stuff on the page before,
Yeah.
of what each one means and what's involved.
As someone who's been through the assessment center before, it's a grueling process. It's like a lawyer going to his first mock trial. They have you write a 120-day action plan in 90 minutes, and then you gotta publicly present it in front of an independent body. That is usually one of the things you have to do in an assessment center. And then the body, it's there, ask questions, rapid fire questions, and then you rate those candidates based on how they did. I just know that's usually one of the typical exercises they do.
Well, I'm gonna meet with him again. He and I met before, it was kind of a brief meeting, and we didn't go over every single thing here because we ended up talking about a whole variety of other things as far as choosing a chief, and ended up not going through
It's
every.
one of the days I was sick again.
It was one of those you were sick, but that's okay. I mean, he and I
Good
actually
job,
had
Oscar.
interesting
Good.
chats about a whole bunch of things, so. I didn't really get a full time to be able to sit there and go through all this. But I would definitely like to use them. I think I would like to use outside help for this. I mean, we've got some great insight with our public safety board. We have the police experience here. But I think it's a good idea to also get someone from the outside. Our former mayor was the chief. He had a little more experience in this area. I feel like I need someone from the outside to help with this.
So you want us to just table this, not make any sort of motions for amounts? You wanna talk to them again and bring it back to us, or what are you looking for?
We're looking for consensus on using the guy,
Well,
and we will try to justify to you what we wanna do the next time we come around.
Like I said, as finance chair, I am comfortable with any of these amounts, options A through C. As I stated earlier,
She has to pick what she.
this is
All right.
her opinion. If you say this is who you're comfortable with, I
Yep.
mean, and you wanna talk to them again and bring us back a dollar amount, we can approve it at the next one. As I said earlier, I'm comfortable with approving you, up to option A, and you come up with some sort of hybrid in the middle of all these options that you're, of what you feel you need.
Well, if you would like to do that, to go to the not to exceed the option A, I doubt I'm going to even go up to option A because I'd like to use a hybrid, but it gives me somewhere to go when I talk to him. And I can still bring it back next time and just say, here's what I think I'd like to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think your communication is fine I'm comfortable with it, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I agree. I'd let the ball get rolling maybe a little faster,
Yeah.
Well, the good news is we got 6 months, we're not rushed into a
Sure.
decision. The last time this happened, we had, the chief actually passed away in office.
But we were talking about that, that was
That was like,
in October, right?
yeah, October.
And the replacement came in like March, right? I mean, and that was like,
Yeah.
I think it was presented to the board in like January, first week of February. We had to wait for him to finish whatever tenure he needed at his old
Yeah.
job, before he can come over.
Yeah,
so I
it was a
mean,
good 5 months.
so even in a rush situation, right? I mean, it was
It
still
took
a
Yeah.
4.5, 5 month process. So I mean, your clock's based on your 6 months.
Yeah.
You're 8 days
Starting
into
to
it or
tick now.
whatever, 9 days into it, whatever.
Well,
we are.
even our interim chief made that comment. He says, it takes a while. He says, you don't just hop out and find somebody the first month.
And I mean, if this is, like Trustee Porter said, if this is a company you want and feel comfortable with, I'm fine with that. I would say I have a problem with option A. I don't think there's any reason they should be doing everything.
Well, to be honest, I don't either, but at least I have the option to be able to pick and choose and move things around. I cannot foresee using option A, to be honest with you. But will it be option B? Or if we pick and choose in between, will it be somewhere between B and A?
And they'll do like an à la carte like that for you?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. If I give him a list of which parts of this I want to choose, he'll come up with a price in between. We did talk about that.
And Todd, I see what you're saying, and I don't think we will either, but this is her appointment. If that's what she needs to be comfortable with it, I feel as a board, we have to let her do it. This is her appointment, this is her,
That is correct, that is 100% her appointment, but you and I have also had conversations about the way the process went last time,
oh, I agree.
and how stuff should have been done different.
But we have to let her handle it. I have confidence in our mayor that there'll be involvement at different points from different people that I
Yeah,
don't
the
think we
board is
have
not
an
gonna
issue.
be, yeah, the board is not gonna be kept out of this process, public safety is not gonna be kept out of this process.
No, I don't think we are, I just,
Yeah.
in our town and our circumstances, again, and if they'll let you pick and choose, I like that one, I like this one, I like that one, that's fine, I'll go up to the option A. I'm just saying that,
No, cause option A looks like they're doing the whole job.
And this isn't a bigger town, a bigger city, an Aurora or something like that, Naperville, or, or they want, you have to have this on your resume, you have to have this column checked and all this stuff done. I mean, that's basically what option A is, they will fulfill every requirement you need, and you'll get your cookie cutter chief. And again, I'll approve of the dollar amount, it's your appointment, I trust your process. I just want to put that out to that, I don't think that's good to have them do everything like that.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to allow the village president to contract P4 Security Solutions, an amount not to exceed $16,500.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second? There's a motion and a second, discussion? Roll call?
That was seconded by trustee Kraus, correct? Trustee Stacy, okay, thank you. Caprows,
Yes.
Possession,
Yes.
Giannotti,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
I lost my track here of where we are. We moved everything around in this meeting.
Have a chairs and stuff, Brian's.
I know. Is there any old business to come before the board?
I do have one thing. Did everyone get a copy of this letter from
Yes.
trustee Terry?
Yes.
Can we enter this into the record, the minutes?
Yeah, if you didn't get it, it's probably in your mailbox.
Okay. You need me to read it, but yeah, I got this on my mailbox, so who checked it?
Yeah, I was.
Finally, so it's just a thank you for all those who attended and helped out for the National Night Out. That's all I have.
Is there any new business to come before the board?
I wanted to gauge the board's interest in, for years I've talked about, using the park more and doing more, and seeing how, trustee Terry, and I think, the cohesiveness, within this board,
Board night?
came together, I mean, way better than I could have expected, is I wanted to kind of see what everyone's thoughts were, is to seeing possibly, like some sort of Oktoberfest, or just a simple band in the park, small budget, hire a band, talk to the fire department, maybe the fire department's got got their own association where if they wanted to sell liquor, see if the mayor would be willing to do a one-day liquor license for a one-night thing. And if that goes well, that's something I think we could work on for next year, to kind of have an idea for budgeting for trying to do something like a summer concert series in the park, or certain nights for jazz night in the park, or a big band, or blues music, and just kind of mix it up and work on getting some more activities down at the park.
Yeah, you had me in Oktoberfest.
Germany.
Listen, I have pictures, ones I can show, that we can replicate the whole thing if you need to.
I mean, I'm just thinking, it doesn't have to be extravagant like the Fourth of
Just a
July
single
fest.
band,
I
one
mean,
thing.
a simple
One night.
night of, where you get, somebody there selling hot dogs and stuff, somebody there sell beer in a band, and let the community come together and enjoy an evening, and, be mindful of the times and the noise, something reasonable, band 7 to 10 or 6 to 10 or something like that, end it early and just get more use out of that park in the stage. And if it's something the board's interested in, I mean, we can start to kind of put together some ideas, see if there's an organization, the Lions Club or Fire District.
I happen to have $7,000 in COVID relief grant funding that we received from FEMA that was not budgeted.
Okay. Well, we
If
can.
you wanted to use that money for that purpose.
There's other things in the budget that, I mean, I'm not talking anything big, you know, a
One night,
simple band, a
bands.
couple $100 and if
Sell
you,
drinks.
that's, I mean, I think that would be the whole village's only responsibility. If someone like the Lions Club wants to come and sell hot dogs or sandwiches or something like that, or burgers, it's on them to, you know, provide it and give them the opportunity to sell it. If the fire district, through their fire association, wanted to get a beer trailer and sell beer, so be it. I mean, if nobody does, you can still have a, you know, an evening out with the music and.
I guess we can
See what comes of
part it out, say, hey, the village is gonna provide a band this day, we're looking for someone to take over the beer, we're looking for someone to provide, you know,
Food.
whatever, yeah, food.
That's
And
all
then
you
you part it out and say, this is what the village
You
doing.
don't need
Some
100
people's gonna do
options for
this.
food, it's
No.
hot dogs and burgers and, you know,
Yep.
light beer or regular beer. Simple,
Yeah.
yeah. Alright, yeah, this gives us an idea, that's all I need.
All right. No more new business? We have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Jawohl.
Rather
Is that too? Jawohl.
Kraus,
Jawohl.
Stacy,
Yes.
Benatti,
Yes.
Possession.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.